Hey everyone, have you ever thought about how color, something we take entirely for granted, has shaped the world we live in? I mean, seriously, look around you. Every single shade you see has a story. And not just any story, a story of power, wealth, exploration, and even war. Today, we're diving into the origins of color and how its trade and exchange literally changed the course of history, and I promise, this will blow your mind. Now imagine a world without color. Just close your eyes for a second. No vibrant reds, no deep blues, no dazzling golds. For most of human history, that was the reality for the majority of people. Color wasn't just something you could buy at the store for a cheap price. Oh no, it was rare, valuable, and in some cases more precious than gold. So where did it all begin? Let's start thousands of years ago with one of the most coveted colors in history, purple. Back then, purple wasn't just a color, it was a status symbol, a badge of power. You couldn't just mix red and blue to get it. No, the only way to produce purple dye was by harvesting thousands of tiny sea snails called murex. These snails were found in the Mediterranean, and the process of extracting the dye was so labor-intensive and expensive that only royalty could afford to wear it. That's why you've probably heard the phrase royal purple. But here's the deeper question: why was purple so important? Why did people care so much about something as simple as a color? Well, it wasn't just about aesthetics. Colors have always been symbols of wealth, of spirituality, of identity. When a Roman emperor wore purple, it wasn't just a fashion statement. It was a way of saying, I am chosen by the gods. I am untouchable. This brings us to an even bigger idea. Color has always been more than just a visual experience. It's been a form of communication, a way to express power, faith, and culture. And as civilizations began to expand and interact with one another, the demand for vibrant colors grew. But here's the catch: not every civilization had access to the materials needed to produce these colors. And that's where trade comes in.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more topics you love.
Let's take blue, for example. In many ancient cultures, blue was seen as divine. Think about the lapis lazuli used in ancient Egyptian art, or the indigo dye that became a cornerstone of Indian culture. But lapis lazuli wasn't just lying around everywhere. It was mined in a specific region of Afghanistan, and getting it to Egypt required a complex network of trade routes. The same goes for indigo, which required cultivating specific plants and mastering intricate dyeing techniques. So here's a question for you: how far would you go to get something you couldn't live without? Because that's exactly what ancient civilizations did. They traveled thousands of miles, risked their lives, and spent fortunes just to acquire the materials needed to produce these colors. And it wasn't just about trade, it was about exchange. When you traded for lapis lazuli or indigo, you weren't just getting a product. You were also exchanging ideas, technologies, and cultures. Think about it: the Silk Road wasn't just a highway for goods, it was a superhighway for human connection. But let's pause for a moment. If color was so valuable, did people ever use it as a weapon? Oh, absolutely. Empires controlled access to certain dyes to maintain their power. They guarded the secrets of their techniques like you'd guard a treasure. And in some cases, they even banned certain colors to keep them exclusive to the elite. Imagine living in a world where you weren't even allowed to wear a specific color. Crazy, right? Okay, we're just getting started here. Stick around because in part 2, we're diving into the world of forbidden colors, color monopolies, and the lengths people went to keep their secrets. Trust me, you don't want to miss it. All right, welcome back. So we've talked about how colors like purple and blue became symbols of power, and how ancient trade routes brought these colors to different parts of the world. But now, let's talk about the darker side of the story, the colors they didn't want you to see. You see, as much as color was about beauty and expression, it was also about control. Let's take red, for example. In ancient Mesoamerica, the Aztecs created a vibrant red dye called cochineal. This dye was made from tiny insects that lived on cactus plants. Sounds simple, right? Well, here's the twist. Cochineal red was so intense and so vibrant that when the Spanish conquistadors arrived, they were stunned. They had never seen anything like it. The Spanish wasted no time in exploiting this discovery. They turned cochineal into one of their most valuable exports, shipping it back to Europe where it became a sensation. But here's the thing, they didn't want anyone else to know where it came from or how it was made. They kept the process a closely guarded secret for centuries, creating a monopoly on one of the most sought-after dyes in the world. And it wasn't just the Spanish. All over the world, access to certain colors was tightly controlled. In medieval Europe, for example, sumptuary laws dictated who could wear what colors. These laws were designed to reinforce social hierarchies. If you were a peasant, you couldn't wear bright colors like red or blue. Those were reserved for the nobility. Now, let's talk about black. You might think black is just black, right? But even black had its own hidden story. In the Middle Ages, black became a symbol of power and sophistication. Wealthy merchants and clergy wore it to convey authority and seriousness. But producing a deep, rich black dye wasn't easy. It required expensive materials and complex techniques, making it another color that only the elite could afford. But here's a question for you. Why do we, as humans, always try to control access to beauty? What does it say about us that we've used something as universal as color to divide and conquer? As we move into the Renaissance, the story of color takes another fascinating turn. This was the age of exploration, when Europeans began to sail to the farthest corners of the globe in search of new lands, new goods, and of course new colors. This is when indigo became a game changer. Indigo, often referred to as blue gold, was a dye that revolutionized the textile industry. But cultivating indigo wasn't easy. It required vast plantations, slave labor, and a deep understanding of chemistry. The British, French, and Dutch all fought to control the indigo trade, turning it into one of the most lucrative and exploitative industries of the time. And yet, despite all the greed and violence, color remained a source of inspiration and innovation. Artists like Michelangelo and Da Vinci pushed the boundaries of what could be done with pigments, creating works of art that still leave us in awe today. But here's the kicker. Even as new colors were being discovered and new techniques were being developed, the secrets of color remained closely guarded. Alchemists and scientists worked tirelessly to create synthetic dyes, but the process was often dangerous and unpredictable. All right, we've covered a lot of ground here, but we're not done yet. In part 3, we're going to explore how the Industrial Revolution changed everything. We'll look at how synthetic dyes democratized color, but at a cost, and we'll ask some big questions about what color really means in the modern world. Stick around. Welcome to the final part of our journey through the origins of color. So far, we've explored how color was a symbol of power, a tool for control, and a driver of global trade. But now we're entering a new chapter, the moment when color became everyone's business. The Industrial Revolution was a turning point in the history of color. For the first time, scientists developed synthetic dyes that could be mass-produced. One of the first breakthroughs came in 1856, when an 18-year-old chemist named William Perkin accidentally discovered movine, the first synthetic dye, while trying to create a cure for malaria. Perkin's discovery was a game-changer. Suddenly, vibrant colors were no longer the exclusive domain of the elite. They could be produced cheaply and sold to the masses. This democratization of color had a profound impact on society. It allowed ordinary people to express themselves in ways that had never been possible before. But there was a downside. The mass production of synthetic dyes came at an environmental cost. Rivers ran red, blue, and green with chemical waste, and the working conditions in dye factories were often dangerous and exploitative. This brings us to a critical question: is the beauty of color worth the price we've paid? And what does it mean to live in a world where color is no longer a luxury, but a commodity? In the 20th century, the story of color took yet another turn with the rise of branding and advertising. Companies realized that color could be used to influence behavior and create emotional connections. Think about Coca-Cola's red, Tiffany's blue, or McDonald's yellow. These aren't just colors, they're identities. And today, in the digital age, color continues to evolve. From the RGB pixels on your screen to the filters on your Instagram photos, color is more accessible and more powerful than ever before. So, as we wrap up this journey, I want to leave you with one final question: what's your color story? What do the colors you surround yourself with say about who you are and what you value? Thanks for joining me on this incredible journey through the origins of color. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to like, comment, and share. And remember, the world is so much richer when you see it in full color. See you next time. Before we fully wrap up, let's take a moment to zoom out and think about the why behind all of this. Why has humanity gone to such extraordinary lengths, crossing oceans, waging wars, hoarding secrets, enslaving people just to control color? What is it about color that makes it so powerful? Well, color is more than just a visual phenomenon. It's psychological, it's cultural, it's personal. Think about how red makes you feel. It's bold, passionate, energizing, even dangerous. Now think about blue: calming, serene, trustworthy. These associations aren't random. They've been shaped by centuries of human experience, and they vary across cultures. For example, in Western cultures, white is often associated with purity and weddings, whereas in many Eastern cultures, white is traditionally linked to mourning and funerals. Red, which in the West might symbolize love or urgency, is seen as a sign of good fortune and celebration in China. What's fascinating is how these cultural meanings of color have influenced global trade and marketing. Big brands and governments understand this deeply. When Coca-Cola entered the Chinese market, they didn't just rely on their iconic red branding. They considered the cultural significance of red as a lucky color, which helped them connect with consumers on a deeper, almost subconscious level. Here's a question for you. Do you think the colors you love are your own choice, or do you think they've been shaped by the world around you? Now, let's go even deeper. Colors don't just evoke emotions, they influence decisions. This is why businesses, advertisers, and even political campaigns place such a heavy emphasis on color psychology. Take food, for example. Have you ever noticed that fast food chains like McDonald's, Burger King, and KFC all use red and yellow in their branding? Red is thought to stimulate appetite, while yellow creates a sense of happiness and urgency. Together, they encourage you to act, buy that burger, eat those fries, and do it now. Or think about luxury brands. Colors like black and gold are often used to signal sophistication, exclusivity, and wealth. These aren't just aesthetic choices, they're carefully crafted strategies designed to communicate a message without saying a single word. Even in politics, colors play a huge role. In many countries, political parties are identified by their colors: red for socialism or communism, blue for conservatism, green for environmentalism, and so on. These colors become shorthand for complex ideologies and values, influencing how people engage with them on an emotional level. But here's another question for you: if colors can influence you so powerfully, are you really in control of your decisions? Or is color another subtle way the world shapes you? As we reflect on the modern age, it's clear that we've come a long way from the days when purple was reserved for royalty or when indigo plantations fueled colonial empires. Today, color is everywhere. It's accessible to everyone, and we rarely think about where it comes from or the cost of producing it. But the truth is, the story of color isn't over. It's evolving. The mass production of synthetic dyes has given us an incredible range of options, but it's also created new challenges. The textile industry, for example, is one of the largest polluters in the world, and much of that pollution comes from dyeing fabrics. Rivers and industrial centers often run bright with chemical waste, harming ecosystems and communities. At the same time, there's been a renewed interest in natural dyes and sustainable practices. Artisans and designers around the world are rediscovering ancient techniques, using plants, minerals, and even insects to create stunning, eco-friendly colors. By embracing these methods, they're not just preserving tradition, they're also pushing back against the environmental damage caused by synthetic dyes. So here's a challenge for you: the next time you buy something colorful, a shirt, a painting, even a box of crayons, ask yourself, where did this color come from? What's its story? Because every color has one. As we look to the future, one of the most exciting developments is the intersection of color and technology. Scientists are now able to create colors that don't just look beautiful but also serve a purpose. For example, engineers have developed structural colors that mimic the way butterfly wings or peacock feathers reflect light. These colors don't fade over time because they're not made from pigments. They're created by manipulating the structure of a material at a microscopic level. And then there's the rise of digital color. In the digital world, color exists as pure information, an RGB code, or a hexadecimal value. This has completely transformed the way we think about and interact with color. Designers can now create colors that only exist on screens, opening up a whole new realm of possibilities. But this raises another big question: if color is no longer tied to the physical world, does it lose some of its meaning? Or does it take on a new kind of significance in the digital age? So what have we learned? We've seen how the quest for color has driven human ingenuity, shaped cultures, and connected civilizations. We've explored the ways color has been used as a tool for power, control, and influence. And we've looked at how the democratization of color has come with both incredible opportunities and serious challenges. But most importantly, we've seen that color is more than just what meets the eye. It's a story of who we are, what we value, and how we see the world. As we wrap up this journey, I want to leave you with one final thought. Color is everywhere, but it's also deeply personal. It's in the clothes you wear, the art you create, the choices you make. So I challenge you to think about the colors in your life. What do they mean to you? What do they say about you? And how can you use them to tell your own story? Thank you so much for joining me on this incredible exploration of the origins of color, trade, and exchange. If you've made it this far, you're officially a color expert. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you enjoyed this, and let me know in the comments what's your favorite color and why. Until next time, stay curious, stay vibrant, and keep seeing the world in all its shades.